You want to make some picks on your favorite sports? Check out Underdog's Fantasy Pick'em game, where you can pick higher or lower on between 2 to 8 players and can win up to 325 times your entry by using code Niners when you sign up. And you'll get $1,000 bonus cash and a free pick.
From the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. It's time to talk about free agent centers. And free agent center is something that's, I'm sure, on a lot of people's minds because you see the position, and I think universally everyone believes if the 49ers could upgrade over their current center, Jake Brendle, that the team would be better. But the truth is, you're always looking to upgrade every single position you possibly can during an offseason. If you can get better at the position, you do it. And the center position is going to be highlighted in this episode because it has been a little bit of a question mark for a while. We've seen Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch go about it in a couple of different ways. First off, we haven't seen them address it in the draft. That is something that the 49ers don't usually do when it comes to center. They might draft other positions and believe those guys could translate to center. One of those being Nick Zakelj. We're going to talk about Nick Zakelj in this episode as well. But that's what they've done. They haven't really addressed center with a pure center. Like, hey, we're going to draft this guy. And last year was a perfect opportunity to do so. You had Zach Frazier, who ended up being an all-pro rookie center. He went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, had a great season. Lots of 49er fans were huge fans of Zach Frazier. He was a good player. They decided to go a different route. Then there was Jackson Powers Johnson, another good player out of Oregon, a first-round talent at center. 49ers, not interested. Now, they did strike on the interior offensive line getting Dominic Pooney, which was a phenomenal pick. Dominic Pooney stepped in day one and was a great guard for the 49ers, and sky's the limit for what that guy could be. So it's not like they don't address interior offensive line in the draft. It's just usually they do it with offensive tackles. Dominic Pooney was an offensive tackle that looked to translate to the inside. And they had a hole at guard. And they have a hole at guard again this season. But focusing on center is one of the keys to making this team a little bit better. Because we know now that they've got an all-pro offensive tackle in Trent Williams. And they've got a on-the-verge big-time player in Dominic Pooney at right guard. But they've got 3 spots where they can particularly get better. Number 1, you don't have a left guard. Aaron Banks is hitting free agency. Number 2, Jake Brendle is probably the next weakest between him and what you're going to get from Colton McKivitz. So if you could upgrade left guard and you could upgrade center, I think that is the main objective during the offseason. One of the easiest ways to do that is go get a veteran center. And why do I point out veteran centers as the main option instead of the draft? That's what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have done. And I say this all the time. It's exactly how I am perceiving they do it. That's what I talk about. It's how I believe the 49ers are going to approach situations. So it would be out of the norm for the 49ers to all of a sudden draft an offensive center in this draft. It would be interesting. It would be fun. But for the most part, they just haven't been willing to do so. They've been willing to go the veteran route or to bring someone in that really Chris Foerster feels comfortable with. And that, of course, was Jake Brendle. So we're going to talk about free agent centers. There's some good ones that are available. There's some questions about some current roster players for the 49ers. We're going to talk about that as well. But hey, by the end of this, we're going to pick a center that we think the 49ers should target, or maybe 2. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun because I do think center is a real option for the 49ers in free agency. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. If you're going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, to NHL and UFC, BetOnline is the number one sports betting source for the new year. From touchdowns to three-pointers and hat tricks, BetOnline has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. And I want to start with Jake Brendle, because I think we have to evaluate what we have at the position before we really know how much to improve. You've got to be able to improve if you're going to move on for a player that you have under contract, and they have Jake Brendle under contract for 2 seasons. Like I said, it's universally thought that center is a position the 49ers could upgrade at. But let's look at his PFF grades. Number one, he is a 65 overall grade for the season. That is 23rd best in the NFL. So he's 9 spots better than the last player. So he's not exactly the best. He's not a top third. He's not a top half. He's a bottom third center in overall grade for what he does. And why is he that way? Well, his pass blocking grade is a 55.1, which is 51st best amongst 64 qualifying centers. That's not good. You are 51st in a position that has 32 starting centers when it comes to pass blocking grade. And why does Jake Brendle struggle when it comes to pass blocking? Well, the things that make him really great are his speed, his athleticism, the fact that he can get to the second level. Those types of things are great when it comes to the run game, but he doesn't have an anchor when it comes to pass blocking. That's one of the things I loved about Dominic Pooney last year in the breakdowns, where Dominic Pooney had an anchor. He didn't get pushed back by bigger defensive linemen. That's a problem for Jake Brendle. Jake Brendle often is disengaged from because the other player is stronger. He's more physical. He's able to get a push, and that's where it really hurts him when it comes to pass blocking grade. If you just look at the run blocking grade, which is a 71.6, Jake Brendle does a good job. That is 12th best amongst those 64 qualifying centers. 12th best? That's top third in the NFL, or top half in the NFL. That's pretty good. So you see one area that he's really good. That's the type of thing that the 49ers lean on. And then you look at the pass protection, and it's just not there. What you're hoping is that you can find somebody that can kind of marry the two together, like a Dominic Pooney. He's good in pass protection, but also is a developing good run blocker. And he's still got to get better at the position, that's for sure. But he's done a pretty good job, Dominic Pooney did, in his rookie season. So that's where we're sitting with Jake Brendle. Brendle has also been dependable. He's been playing a lot. I want to say positive things about Jake Brendle because there's a lot to be appreciative of what he's done. But it's also nice to look and evaluate at what you could do or what you could get if it's better. Now, what does Jake Brendle's contract looks like? Because that's another interesting factor. Now, number one, he is set to get paid $3.2 million a season, a little over $3.2 million. With a chance that you cut him, it would only save you about $1.2 million. So I think Jake Brendle is going to be on this roster this season. Whether the 49ers go get a center on the open market or draft somebody, Jake Brendle will probably be here as a rotational piece or competing for the center position, that's for sure. But where it gets interesting is in 2026, he's set to make $5.6 million with a $1.364 million dead cap hit if you cut him. That is a savings of nearly $4 million. So I think that the 49ers know that the Jake Brendle thing is running out. It's either happening this season or it's happening in 2026. They've tried to draft and develop to be able to overtake what Jake Brendle does, and they haven't got there. So making a decision this year on a starter is completely okay. I think they can decide to move on from Brendle, make him a rotational piece. He can play guard. That's something he's done in the NFL. And so it's more likely he gets cut next year than if he gets cut this year, just looking at the financials. Now, what about the current roster? Because I like to look at the current roster first before you really decide what you're going to do when it comes to certain players. Now, the first name I'll bring up is another free agent, Jon Feliciano. And I don't know if Jon Feliciano is going to play in 2025. He could retire. He was not able to come back from injury, spent the entire 2024 season on the 49ers injured reserve. And the 49ers had brought him in the 2023 offseason, so right before the 2023 season. And with that being said, what was Feliciano like when he played center for the Giants in 2022? Well, he was actually ranked 27th among PFF with the 31 qualifying centers. Feliciano was 27th as a pass blocker and 15th as a run blocker. So when it came to his center play, it was really equivalent to what we've been getting from Jake Brendle. Where we've seen John Feliciano have his most success is when he played guard. And so I think John Feliciano, even though a lot of people have been saying, hey, let's go ahead and move Feliciano back to center, that will take care of our center problem, it doesn't mean it ultimately does. It just looking at his numbers and how he played in New York, there's still a chance that Jake Brendle is pretty close. He's more athletic than John Feliciano. Feliciano's got the injury concerns, misses games where Jake Brendle doesn't. So I think when it comes down to it, it's more up in the air. I think where John Feliciano might enter the conversation is when we're talking about guard, because John Feliciano finished the 2023 season as the highest rated guard according to PFF. Now, he didn't garner a lot of interest on the open market, came back to the 49ers for cheap. I'm guessing a lot of people thought it was scheme. A lot of people thought it was something else. But that's something to remember. John Feliciano, we'll talk about it when we talk about guards, but I don't know if that's a sure thought process. Let's just get Feliciano, put him at center, and everything's going to be good, because he really ranks pretty close to Jake Brendle. And we want to see a really good upgrade. We don't want just a mediocre upgrade. We want somebody that's going to take over the position and take it to new heights, that's going to stabilize this offensive line and really establish it, because the 49ers love going with veteran centers, and we've seen them do it a couple of times. Weston Richburg in 2008, a 5-year deal, over $47 million, over $9 million for an offensive lineman for the 49ers. Are you kidding me? People not named Trent Williams don't normally get paid that, but they did in 2018. And how about in 2021? 2020, they were signing a player, Trent Williams, to a contract. They were also signing Alex Mack to come in as well. I do believe it was the 2021 season. So they will spend on center. But let's talk a little bit about some of the guys that are potentially on the roster. So let's talk about Nick Zakelj. I brought him up earlier. He was a guy that they brought in to potentially take over the center role. He has not played center for the 49ers in a regular season game, or at least extensive snaps. His overall grade this season was 58.7. This is from playing guard. His pass blocking grade, 77.7. Way better than Jake Brendle, right? We talked about him being in the 50s. That was 9th best amongst 135 qualifying guards, according to PFF. So Jake Brendle, not good at pass blocking. Nick Zakelj, very good at pass blocking. The problem is, Nick Zakelj's run blocking grade was dismal, 51.2. So pretty close to what Jake Brendle's was when you're talking about pass blocking grade. Brendle, 55.1. Nick Zakelj, 51.2. Now, would Nick Zakelj's pass blocking grade be better if he was at center? I think it would. I think that's his best natural position, and I thought he played it better in preseason than he played guard. So that could be a huge thing. So you're talking about, your run blocking grade for Jake Brendle, I said the other one, was 71.6. So that's where you're missing out. The run blocking grade for Nick Zakelj is just not good. So it's the inverse. He's the anti-Jake Brendle. Really good pass blocking, not as good when it comes to run blocking. So do you want to go that route? I think he is an option. But it's my goal to improve the position. And I think Nick Zakelj could get better. He showed a huge improvement. But I'm not sure Nick Zakelj is the ultimate answer. What about somebody like Ben Bartch? He had been getting center reps as well. He's a free agent. The 49ers might be interested in bringing him back. Well, how about this? At guard, he scored a 74.8 grade. That's 23rd best amongst the 135 guards. Pretty good, right? There's 2 guards on every single team, and he's 23rd. His pass block grade was 74. That was 23rd. His run block grade, 71.2. Ben Bartch might just be in the running for left guard. But with those numbers at left guard, I'm not sure I want him to play center. So let's go ahead and move on from Ben Bartch. And let's start getting into some of these free agents that are available that the 49ers could consider. So right now, we know it's either Jake Brendle, he's going to be on the roster, or it's Nick Zakelj, who is the backup center. And I know a lot of people are going to talk about guys that haven't been on the active roster that much, and that's okay. Undrafted rookies, I love it. But let's keep it to these guys right now. There's potential. There's some potential that somebody could step up and take the role. But I think the 49ers, if they're going to upgrade, it's not going to be from somebody that's a undrafted free agent that they have within the system. I think it's going to come from somebody outside. So Zakelj, if he could figure out the running, the run blocking, he might be able to do it. But there are some guys in free agency that I think could come in and could be that consistent player that the 49ers need at center that could stabilize the offensive line. And I'm all for it. I'm all for the upgrade. I think they'd be an upgrade over Brendle, upgrade over Zakelj. The first name I'm going to bring up, and it's been commented to me, so I'm not coming up with an original idea here. I've seen it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, actually. I don't remember who saw it first. I know Brad Graham's been talking about it as well. But it's Drew Dalman. And Dalman is 6'3", 300 pounds. Been playing for the Atlanta Falcons. He's only 26 years old, so still a young guy. You're getting him at a prime time that you can kind of get him in the fold and sign him to a long-term deal and tie him to Brock Purdy for the next 5 years. Brock's going to get a new deal, give Drew Dalman a new deal, pay him a little bit of money, and stabilize. You've been going cheap at right tackle. You've been going cheap when it comes to interior offensive linemen. You don't have to sign Dominic Pooney for 3 more seasons. Why not? And here's why. Drew Dalman's overall grade last season was a 78.8. He was 4th best in grade in the entire league, and he's a free agent. Imagine going from what you had with Jake Brendle, who wasn't one of the top guys when you're talking about his overall grade. He was 23rd. You're getting 19 points better by going to Drew Dalman. His pass blocking grade is a 66.6, 15 points better than Brendle, and it is 22nd best. So it's not spectacular, but it's solid. But here's what makes the money for the 49ers. He's actually an improvement over Jake Brendle when it comes to run blocking. 79.8. That's 5th best. So you're talking about a guy that's really good at blocking in the run game. He fits the system, and he's got a really good pass blocking grade as well. He can do both. He's 26 years old. You got a 25-year-old quarterback. Let's connect these guys together. I think Drew Dalman should be the 49ers target when it comes to center. And I know I haven't went through everybody, but I'm just saying, I think this is the best option when you look at scheme fit, when you look at numbers, when you look at age. Everything seems to work. And for the 49ers, they don't normally spend a lot on free agency when it comes to guards or tackles, besides Trent Williams, but they do with center. And this might be the time. Drew Dalman has not made a lot of money in his career. So what was Drew Dalman making? Well, he's coming off a year where he made $3.3 million. So he's going to be looking for, an upgrade. He's going to be 27 years old next year. But the 49ers could definitely do something. And what about injuries? Well, he missed some games for an ankle injury last year, but for the most part, he stays healthy. I think Drew Dalman would be a great addition for the 49ers. I agree with Brad Graham. I agree with, everyone that's been saying Drew Dalman. To me, it makes a lot of sense. I like the player. But he's not the only one. And so I do want to make sure we keep perspective on that, because there's a chance that other teams that run similar systems, and the system is going crazy around the league right now, are going to be interested in Drew Dalman and might drive up the price. There's a lot of teams around the league with a lot more money to spend. And so they could potentially go a different way and pay Drew Dalman a lot of money that the 49ers can't pay. The 49ers got to be still very shrewd in their spending, and they got to make sure they're continuing to be relevant, pay now to make sure you have a shot at 2025, but also longevity. And so I think when it comes to that, the 49ers might continue to look at other guys, and you got to make sure you talk to your pro scouts and see who else is scheme fits. That's one of the most important things. It's not just, hey, picking out a center, but they have to be scheme fit. Atlanta, scheme fit. You're going to get exactly what you were hoping for if you get Drew Dalman. He fits your system. So that's all we're talking about in this. If they don't fit the scheme, we're not going to talk about them. So that's something to remember as well. Now, before I start talking about the other centers, I'm going to take a quick break because I want to talk to you guys about Underdog Fantasy. And I made my picks this week in the higher-lower game where you can earn up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. All you have to do is go to Underdog Fantasy, use the link in my description section, use the promo code NINERS, NINERS, and you can join in. And these are my picks for this week. I went with Brian Robinson over 37.5 rushing yards. So I went higher. That was what I really liked. And then I went with a promo, a 2-pick, which is James Cook going over 39.5 rushing yards. I know it's going to be tough against Kansas City, but James Cook has been so good this season. I think he can get 40 yards or more. And Travis Kelce getting over 5.5 catches, so higher than 5.5 catches in the game against the Buffalo Bills as well. And then I went ahead and tacked on that I think Harrison Butker is going to have more than 1.5 field goals in this game. So 2 field goals for Harrison Butker, and you've got a really good opportunity to win. So these are my picks for the week for Underdog Fantasy higher-lower game. Don't forget, $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Use the promo code NINERS to sign up and have fun playing. I enjoyed it last week, and now it's the championship week, and you could join in and have fun as well. So that's Underdog. Hope you do that. But let's talk about these other centers. We talked about Dalman, and now I want to talk about some other guys. Now, if you're looking for a guy that's a little bit older, but has been a good pro throughout his career, it's Ryan Kelly from the Indianapolis Colts. And I don't think that he is the number one target, but listen to this. His 67 overall grade made him 17th best in the NFL this season. His pass block grade was 71.9, which is once again a huge upgrade over Jake Brendle, who hasn't been that great. He was sitting around 51%. So a huge advantage there when you're talking about the score for Jake Brendle compared to the score for Ryan Kelly. So Ryan Kelly does it there. Now, when it comes to run blocking grade, Ryan Kelly is not as good. He was 64th best. So you would be losing a little bit when it comes to the run blocking, but you'd be gaining when it comes to protection. And this one might be a little bit better, especially as the 49ers have opened it up a little bit and allowed Brock Purdy to throw the football more. So Ryan Kelly is going to be one of the main guys on the list of most teams because he's been consistent. He's been able to do it, but he is 31 years old. So remember that when you're talking about Ryan Kelly, is that the age is going to be a factor. Now, he has made a lot of money in his career. This last year, his cap hit was $14.6 million. So he's been on, the side of a lot of cash. So maybe he's looking for an opportunity to win. We'll see. But that's something to remember. That could price the 49ers out. I don't think the 49ers, when signing a center, are going to want to go over $10 million. I think where they were sitting when they had Weston Richburg 9.5 is kind of the max that they're going to go. And I think they've displayed that with Laken Tomlinson letting him go when he got over $10 million. Mike McGlinchey, he went. I think they'll probably let Aaron Banks go, even though his market value is probably going to see him at between $7 and $8 million this season. But that's just something to remember. So Ryan Kelly of the Indianapolis Colts is a fun player. 6'4", 307, 31 years old. And he can definitely handle the 49ers scheme, that's for sure. I like him less than Dalman, especially when you look at the age. 5 years the senior. Getting the younger player and kind of tying him to Brock Purdy makes it worth the financial commitment that you're going to have to the player. But if you can't get Drew Dalman and Ryan Kelly's available, I do think he's an upgrade over Jake Brendle. You're not going to be as good with as in the run game as Jake Brendle is, because Brendle, elite athleticism, but you're going to get better when it comes to pass blocking. I mean, Kelly was 12th best amongst centers when it came to pass blocking. So it's a little bit of a trade-off between Brendle and Kelly. Now, let's talk about another fit. This guy's a former Los Angeles Ram, which means he played for Sean McVay. He plays in his own scheme. He fits the system, and it's a potential player the 49ers could bring it in. And this is where you get balance. Jake Brendle's really good at run blocking, not good at pass blocking, and so it kind of takes you down a little bit to where his grade is. When you get a guy like Coleman Shelton, who played for the Chicago Bears this year, going to be similar size to Jake Brendle. He's 6'4", 299, 29 years old. Jake Brendle, 6'4", 300, but he is older. He's over 30 years old. You get a guy that's very similar, a 66.4 overall grade. His pass blocking grade is a 68.4, which is 17 points better than Jake Brendle. And his run blocking grade is 66.7, which is a little bit less. Brendle is about 5 points better. But this is what I'm talking about. This is more consistency across the board, right? And what has Chris Foerster talked about? He wants consistency. So Jake Brendle is by far the better run blocker. It's not even close. And Coleman Shelton is the better pass blocker. It's not even close. But where you see it is the consistency. Overall grade, 66.4. Pass block grade, 68.4. Run block grade, 66.7. That consistency outplays the one area being so much better than Jake for Jake Brendle having a better score overall in his run grade. So I like Coleman Shelton. And once again, another player that stayed predominantly healthy, but a guy that fits the system, that played with the Rams already. And I think you feel comfortable if this is a guy you have to go after, because that's the key. Consistency. It's not a sexy name. He's not as good as Drew Dalman. I don't want anyone to get that twisted. He's not as good as Ryan Kelly, but he's a good football player. And he showed consistency since he got an opportunity to play in Chicago and play with Caleb Williams. And I'm guessing they want to bring him back, but this is a potential for the 49ers to get better. And I don't think this is a top flight. We talked about Drew Dalman being a top flight center. That's the ultimate goal, is to get that the best possible, but it's also the best possible goal to upgrade while not breaking the bank. And I think this would be an upgrade over Jake Brendle. It wouldn't break the bank. You're talking about the 19th best center. That is, better than Jake Brendle. So it's better. He's 19th best in pass blocking, 23rd best when it comes to the run blocking. And for Jake Brendle, he's 51st when it comes to pass blocking. So even though he's very good when it comes to run blocking, he's 51st when it comes to pass blocking. So Coleman Shelton ranked at four spots ahead of Jake Brendle overall. It could be an upgrade. Now, this is one that got my attention right away because he plays in a similar scheme, and that's Josh Myers, the former Ohio State Buckeye. And he has been playing with the Green Bay Packers with Matt LaFleur. So we know that he fits the scheme as well. Whenever you get guys who play for the Rams, Dolphins, Packers, Texans, right, you're getting guys who are scheme fits because they run the same system as Kyle Shanahan. But once you started digging into Josh Myers, you find out he's really been struggling a lot. And so his 55.3 overall grade is not very good. That's 49th best among centers. You're talking about a guy 6'5", 310, only 26 years old, same age as Drew Dalman. But I just don't see the consistency in his numbers. And I went back and watched a little bit of film of him too, and I see the lack of consistency when it comes to his overall game. Now, I do think that if he got to a team that didn't hold the football as long, he would get a little bit better when it came to pass blocking. We'll say that. But I think there's still something missing. I put him behind the other guys I've talked about for sure, because he's got a 55.3 overall grade, which is 49th best. His pass blocking grade, a 63.4, 37th best. Now, still, that is an upgrade over Jake Brendle. Just shows how abysmal he's been. Run blocking grade, 52.2. Gotta block better than that in the run game. So I know it's an upgrade when it comes to pass blocking, but it's not an upgrade when you talk about the run blocking. And that's going to be something very important to Chris Foerster and Kyle Shanahan. So I don't see Josh Myers being a real option unless Chris Foerster thinks he could develop him beyond. But I don't know why he wouldn't just go ahead and go with Nick Zakelj in that situation. If we look back at Nick Zakel's numbers, he was a 58.7. This is playing guard, but a 77.7 pass blocking grade. That would be one of the best when it comes to centers that we've talked about. Like when you're talking about Drew Dalman, his pass blocking grade is a 66.6. Zakelj is really good when it comes to pass blocking. So that's something to remember. Now, when you're talking about run blocking, 52.2 for Josh Myers, Nick Zakelj, 51.2. Zakelj is already as good as Josh Myers, and he's 25 years old. He's got extra weight, 6'6", 316, the big cat. So I don't think Myers is going to be an option for the 49ers. I think it comes down to three guys outside the organization. Drew Dalman, he's my number one guy. And I think it's going to be a consensus. I think you're going to hear it all around from everyone, from reporters to content creators to fans alike, that Drew Dalman is the number one pick, and he should be. 78 overall grade, really good run blocker, nearly 80. That is fantastic. He would be a plug-and-play starter for the 49ers for the next 5 years. Then I would go with Ryan Kelly, overall upside, pass blocking good, run blocking okay. And then you go with the steady Coleman Shelton. So those are your three guys. Those are the three real options for the 49ers that are outside the organization. I think inside the organization, you like Nick Zakelj. He's a potential guy that you could go with. But Jake Brendle is probably going to be on the team in 2024. I'm sorry, 2025. I'm sorry. Got a year behind. But I think he'll be gone by 2026. So this is potentially the last year of Jake Brendle. Let me know what you think of the free agents. Let me know what you think about the offensive situation for the 49ers. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode was brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.